This is Bricktown Silver. Welcome to my mind. Hey, the other day I got a little mail call and old fish sent me one of these little fish here, and I got to thinking about that fish. And I said, boy, that is neat. I like that fish. I was just admiring it and staring at it and thought, well, that was just super nice of old fish to do that. Fish the insufficient stacker. And got me thinking about my dad. My dad was in the 82nd too. And old Fish, I think he's in the 82nd. I was in the 82nd. My little brother's in the 82nd. I think I had a couple of uncles in the 82nd. The ones I told you that got put in the POW camp during the war. I believe they was 82nd too. Anyway, I got to thinking about this fishing and how my dad used to take me fishing. Anyway, my dad would take me fishing once in a while, and it didn't take me a whole lot, but he had one of these stringers here, and he had a couple of nice catfish on there, maybe a perch. I don't know if you've ever used one of these. I'm sure you fishermen have. You hook your to the gill and you put your fish on it, and then you put it in the water and keeps them live and fresh till you get ready to go home. Anyway, my dad put that fish on there, and he hands it to me. He said, now go throw that in the water. Well, I went over there. I was a good boy. I always did what Daddy told me. So I go over there, and I throwed it in the water. Well, he forgot to tell me to stick this in the ground before I threw it. Well, I threw the whole stringer in the water. I don't remember if we ever got that fish out there or not. But that reminded me of my dad and some of the other things. One time we was fishing on a bridge, and it was not a deep spot, but he gave me a pole. He baited it up for me, and he said, now go throw this in. You guessed it. I threw the whole pole in. It took us half the afternoon to fish that baby back out. But anyway, old Fish, he sure has brought me some good memories. And when I was thinking about memories, my dad used to go down to Arkansas down there and do some fishing. My grandma lived in Arkansas, and I was probably about knee high to a grasshopper. And anyway, this kind of money we used to use when I was knee high to a grasshopper. Anyway, you guys all seen what the Morgans, bunch of Morgans, we used those up. I didn't get too many of them. I was, like I say, I was knee high to a grasshopper. And then we had some old peace dollars. That is, and we used them. That was all in circulation when I was knee high to a grasshopper. Anyway, we had all these old wheat pennies. We used wheat pennies. Look at the color in them things, if you can see them. Some of them turning green. All of them getting used up and everything. But to bring all this about to a full circle here almost is I've been out looking for some coins, and I found some more of these barbers. I like these barbers. Well, there's a few mercs in there. There's a nice looking merc. I had to pick it up. But I went and picked up some barbers. Guess I'll have to take them out there to see them. And, well, the mercs were used a lot too. They were new. Some of the barbers were pretty old. And guess the focus ain't gonna work too good here, and I better hurry up with my story or it's not gonna get told today. But loved them barbers. Seen them all over when I was a kid growing up. There's another stack of them. And these are the ones I got at the coin show the other day. I had to pay up for them, but it's all memories. And well, I did get a Benji. That was kind of new at that time. 1913. Anyway, my dad used to go down there to Arkansas, and he would fish down there. Well, they didn't let us go down there because you go down that gully down there, and you would go almost straight down until you got down to the river. And I can't remember what the name of that river was, but later on, there at that spot, they built a lake. And anyway, we used to go down there and play a lot too. My dad fished. We'd go over there to we called it the mausoleum back at that time, and I'll show you some pictures of that. This is William Coyne Harvey. He made a lot of money out in Colorado. He was a lawyer, and he bought him a silver mine, and he made a lot of money. But when he came to Arkansas, he started this resort, and anyway, he lost a lot of his money there, and had other people help invest, but they got tired of him. When I was there, I was a young kid, and there was no people there, and it was a pretty scary and awesome place at that time. But this Mr. William Harvey, coined for a nickname, he built this place, and he actually thought the world was going to come to an end, and the mountains was going to cave in and cover up this spring valley here. And he built this resort, and he also built a pyramid there that he thought that when the mountains caved in, the top of the pyramid would stick out of the ground, and people would come up and see a plaque on top, and they would dig down to the bottom and find all the artifacts and things that he had stored in this mausoleum there. But he supposedly had his grave in there, and he had an automobile and all kinds of stuff, and I'd go up to that old wooden door, and I'd run. It scared me, so. But it was a lot of fun times back then. A lot of history down there. And anyway, it was a good time and good memories. This is mausoleum that they moved up top.
We continue the intriguing story of Coyne Harvey, the man who built the place that's seldom seen or remembered, a place called Monte.
Coyne Harvey made a fortune selling his ideas. His financial books sold millions. He spent much of his money in northwest Arkansas on a resort called Monte. In the early part of the last century, it was a destination like no other. But as America pushed further into the 1900s, the public wandered farther away from Monte. By the 1920s, Harvey was losing money and losing faith. Fewer people were sharing his ideas. His hopes for the future were already sinking years before Beaver Lake. As he grew older, his outlook grew darker. Society was on the brink of collapse, literally. As ever, Coyne was making plans. He'd hoped to do it with this, a 130-foot tall obelisk. He would call it a pyramid.
When the land crumbled in, the top of that monument would still be seen, and he put a plaque up there. So future folks would see it and say, oh, when you see this, dig below to find the answers.
He never completed it. What you see today, when Beaver Lake allows, is only the first phase of his end times building project.
In reality, it's an amphitheater, a semicircular seating area, where he could expound about his theories of economics to people who would come to see the pyramid.
And more than a few were still listening. Harvey retained the political clout to head a movement, the Liberty Party. In 1931, they came to Monte, to this amphitheater, to find a presidential nominee. They selected Coyne Harvey.
It's the only presidential convention ever to be held to this date in Arkansas, and he was, of course, the first Arkansas candidate for president.
And he really didn't do badly for an 80-year-old man who thought civilization was doomed. Mr. Harvey died at age 85. So far, the mountains haven't crumbled, but the waters did rise. His tomb was moved to higher ground, spared from suffering the same fate as the unlikely place he built. This was an extraordinary character, part genius and part oddball, but completely worth remembering, even when the lake isn't low.
This is what it looked like in 2005 when there was a big drought down in Arkansas. You could see the old ruins. There's no telling what's left under that lake there. Some call it underwater ghost town, and I believe it. Anyway, I'd go down there and he'd fish and we'd play. And but what's that? What is that over there? Oh, ow! Oh man, who would do that to me? You know I love them barbers. You know, I was at an auction one time digging through a box and some old boy set that rat trap and caught me in a box one time too, but who would, everybody knows I love these barbers. Anyway, back down to the lake. Well, it wasn't a lake, it was a river then. We was playing at the mausoleum there, and they told us that that a guy had a car buried up in there, or not buried, but in the mausoleum in the background there. Now that's one of the nicer ones I found. I don't run across them like that too much anymore. And somebody told me he had a grave in there too, and I used to be halfway scared to run around all that place up there, but it was really a neat place. But anyway, they built that beaver dam, I think is what they call it, and made it into Beaver Lake. And so that was the last we got to go down there to that. But anyway, they say it's a ghost town underneath there, underwater ghost town. 1907. And anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's all, folks.